In Kentucky, we don't just take chances, we bet big. This January, I'm sitting down with 4 Kentuckians who made 4 bold moves and asking one question: what was the biggest bet that you ever made on yourself? This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Town & Country Ford. So wherever life's adventures may lead you, Town & Country Ford is along for the ride. You've taken people off guard with being so true to your Sri Lankan heritage and the spice associated with that region.
We had writers asking me about, all of these things. And I'm like, why are you talking to me? Shouldn't you be talking to a chef?
Well, the success that would follow, from the tent to the pop-up to the accolades.
It's kind of like watching an artist in like the most frustrating way.
My next guest is a culinary force. She is a chef, she is an entrepreneur, and she is a barrier breaker. Sam Fore blends her Sri Lankan roots with bold Southern flavors to create the most beautiful mashup that you've ever tasted. And not only are folks in Kentucky starting to notice, but around the country. Sam Fore, welcome to the Best Bet podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I love just hearing more about your background because I think that those are the early values that kind of instill who we are. So you were born in Kentucky, raised in North Carolina, and your parents are first generation Sri Lankan Americans.
My parents are immigrants.
Yeah,
my parents came here in 1972. They came through in the early 70s. There was a very large number of visas issued to medical professionals. And a lot of them were actually placed in communities throughout the South because they were underserved with their hospitals and with all their medical situations. And so you see a lot of these South Asian doctors headed to the South, and then you see these pockets of community kind of forming around them because if you are halfway around the world from home, you want to find someone familiar who gets it. And so that kind of created these little pods of Sri Lankan communities in Atlanta and Charlotte and in Raleigh, in Alabama of all places. Like it's a bizarre sort of migratory story in which everyone kind of leans into who they are.
What are some of your earliest memories of growing up in North Carolina, especially around the foods? Because there are some bold Southern dishes in North Carolina.
Vinegar barbecue was definitely an intro because, you come into anywhere, even if you're a kid, you come in with these notions of what things should be. And, ideas of fried chicken, ideas of barbecue, ideas of even casseroles can be completely upended if you go to another region. And so with North Carolina, it's both like at that age, especially early on, it's coming to terms with knowing what you have is different, but also appreciating what is there, because there is a sense of needing to assimilate in these immigrant communities to become a part of the fabric of the town. And so to do that, that's more lean in, more try, more learn, more adapt. And so, had to eat it all, had to try it all, just like everyone did, when they came over. And then you kind of figure out your preferences. So what was funny is that like these early memories of food and these early memories of flavors really impacted me, but it hit me in college. So I wasn't as interested in familial food, Sri Lankan food, anything like that until college because I missed it. And so you go to college in the Northeast. I went to college in Boston. And I left North Carolina. I fully intended to never look back because, you're going on a new journey. You've graduated high school. It's supposed to be a whole thing, and now half a life away. It just seems hilarious right now.
That it all circles right back to the region
right
you
back
grew
to
up
home.
with. Yeah,
it circles back to home. It's you want those punchy flavors. You want those varieties. You want that brightness and acid in the vinegar. You want all of that. It all becomes a part of your formative food memories. And so I've kind of used those moments to guide like all of my signature dishes. I can basically reverse engineer to moments. And I think that's why they strike, is because when you put that intention behind it and that intention and that memory, it carries through to the plate.
So from those formative years, do you remember cooking with your mom in the kitchen?
Nope.
She wasn't a cook?
She was a fantastic cook, but she would not let us cook with her.
Did she have her own routines where it's like, okay, this is what I got to do, and we only have this much time?
No. She was, my mom my mom, when she cooks, it's kind of like watching an artist in like the most frustrating way. Because my mom is mostly vegetarian. She's a pescatarian, yet she makes the best pork curry I've ever had, and she doesn't eat pork. And you see this, and I'm like, how does this make sense? And so as I got older, I would see her in the kitchen, and my duty in the kitchen would basically be scraping coconut or washing dishes or, getting a cup of flour or something like that for a cake. But she never trusted us because she was the homemaker, the cook of the community. Everyone loves her food. She is fantastic. She can cook circles around me even now. And so it's just, she takes spices and she's throwing them in. There's no rhyme, reason, measure, nothing. And I'm like, how are you doing this? And so as I got older and as I started to cook and as I wanted to learn more of these flavors that I grew up with that felt like home, it became kind of imperative to almost document it. So I have all these videos on my phone of her like going around the kitchen making curries and saying, oh, I put this here and this there and this there. And it doesn't make any sense to anyone who hasn't been in those situations where that certain measures on your hand represent a teaspoon or a tablespoon. You're not using spoons here. You're cooking by feel. You're cooking by smell. You're cooking by heart. And that's something that I think that really resonated in the culinary industry, is that I just started cooking from the heart. And if that's what resonated around the country, then I think I'm doing something all right.
Doing something all right.
Yeah.
So when you said you went off to college in Boston, were you setting out to be in the culinary space at that time? Or are you like doing something that is so polar opposite from where you've ended up now?
100%.
Okay, what is it?
I was meant to be in my thoughts, I thought I was going to be a consumer behaviorist. I am a marketing and PR undergrad and a marketing master's. So I thought that I was going to be firmly ensconced in the marketing world. Now, this is after the first years of college. When I first got there, I was just like, I don't know what this is. Freedom,
usual,
all this. And then I started working in rock clubs. And when you are an 18-year-old girl who is surrounded by bouncers, it gives you this sense of power that is terrible for an 18-year-old girl to have. But I started living, I lived like crazy. And it drove me home. But I have had so many crazy, bizarre experiences just from like get to Boston, go crazy, all of a sudden start partying and hanging out with rock stars. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense, but I'm just going to go with it.
And then what begins to lead you back to Kentucky?
I got married. So after 10 years in Boston, my now husband, my boyfriend at the time, his cousin came up to visit, and his cousin's from Lexington, which is where both my husband and I are originally from. My husband was born in Lexington, moved away in 88. I was born in Lexington, moved away in 88. And then all of a sudden we reconnect
it's all
in
come
Boston.
Full circle in Lexington, Kentucky.
My friend tells me he likes that team you like. I'm like, the Celtics? And he's like, no, the cat one. I'm like, there is a guy in Boston that likes the Kentucky Wildcats. And sure enough, we ended up going out I found out about him, and like we started messaging back and forth. And this is like 2006. This is before, swiping.
Right.
All of that. This is the early getting to know you despite not meeting. And so we met up that day, and we haven't stopped hanging. It's been almost 20 years.
They call that the Kentucky Mafia.
Yeah,
because the same
Kentucky
thing happened
Mafia.
to me in New Orleans. Working there, and they're like, "Have you met the other Kentuckians?"
Yeah. Well, what was
lifelong
crazy
friends? Yeah,
is like our parents worked together. We didn't know that. And it's like all these connections in Kentucky, all roads lead home. Kentucky is a beautiful boomerang state. You have people who have lived in LA and New York and all of these spots. I've been hanging out with one of our regulars who does hair at Paris Fashion Week. And so I'm like, okay, so you hang out at my restaurant and then you've had to do Kate Moss's hair. Cool.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's Kentucky, though.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't make any sense. Everyone has this vision of Kentucky. They think, oh, it's this kind of people who don't do this. Like, Kentucky has so much.
It's changed.
It has
and
changed.
I don't think sometimes the messaging is out there.
Oh.
Like, you're in that PR marketing background. Yeah. What's happening? Why aren't we, like, getting the right marketing out there?
I don't know, man. Well, honestly, I think there's got to be a shift. there's so much commitment to this old, sort of Pollyanna ideal of like, we're going to hang out and we're going to sit on the porch and we're going to be fine. I'm like, we're not all going to do that. Everyone has taken a different path to get here. We're going to create. So Kentucky camaraderie is not like any other state.
It sure is, yeah.
Because you come to Kentucky and all of a sudden, like, people don't look at you funny because you're not supposed to be there. People are looking at you funny because they're trying to figure out who you are. Once they know who you are, you're fine.
Then they're never going to let you go.
No.
They're going to claim you no matter what
Massachusetts.
national stage you walk on. They're going to say, you know where she's from, right?
She's from Kentucky. And so it's like, but in Boston, it took me 3 years to even prove myself to be, accepted within a community. And then it took me like 3 minutes when I get to Kentucky. And I'm like, okay, this is all right. So my husband and I were looking at apartments. And it's funny, the apartment that we looked at is actually sold for 4 times as much last year. So the housing market was a little absurd.
Yeah.
And his cousin says to me, you could be looking for a place in Kentucky with a gold toilet for that price. I said, all right, Guggenheim, you're on. And so I came down and we came to Lexington, and it happened to be the 2012 championship NCAA weekend as well. So it was a very fun time to be in Lexington. And I looked around and I'm like, I could do this for a year. I could do this for a year. We're going to do this for a year because I don't think I want to live in, I don't think I want to live in Boston right now. It's cold. I'm not sure where we want to go. And I can do this for a year. We're closer to family. I can drive places. We have a dog. He can have a yard now. And
we can afford it.
We can afford it. And, we can afford to have a guest bedroom. We can afford to have a second bathroom. We can afford to have laundry in our house. Like the level of justification for crappy living situations that anyone will do to live in a major city.
Yeah.
And then you come to Kentucky and people are like, this is why you live here? And I'm like, this is why I live here. Is because I don't want to live anywhere else. It's beautiful here. I have everything that I need and I can get everywhere that I need to go.
I feel like it's a wonderfully creative place. It's always my place to reset.
Yes. 100%.
Early in my career, it became a reset. Did you suddenly feel coming back here that creatively, okay, I'm home, and those creative juices of what you're good at and what you love started to seep out?
Kind of.
You were allowed to breathe and think about those things?
I started to lean on what I knew. I knew how to cook, because I was throwing parties in Boston. I was the only one who was throwing a derby party in Boston. And so I knew how to cook, and I knew that cooking brought people together, and I knew that we were new in town. And so if we wanted to start getting to know people, we probably should do it. I think it's a great way to get to know somebody is over a meal. Like you get to know a lot about somebody when you have a meal with them. And so we came back, and I was still working in tech. At that point, I was making websites. I'd started a business to make websites for chefs back in Boston, because when I graduated from grad school, I couldn't find a job. And so my chefs gave me a blessing to work remotely from Lexington for their Boston restaurants and continue to do maintenance and upkeep and stuff like that. And so I had a little bit of money coming in, which felt great. But I think of coming back to Kentucky as like, it's always a really long exhale for me. It's like you're just letting all of it out. It took me about 3 days that first time. And I was just like, and you could almost feel city stress is different.
Yeah.
City stress is rife with both money problems, time problems, people problems, proximity problems, accessibility problems, all of the problems. And then you have 10 minutes until you can drive, and you're in a horse pasture with some sort of, descendant of a Derby winner galloping across next to your car, like straight out of a movie. And I'm like, I live here. This is okay. I can slow down for a second. So I slowed down, and it made me think. And now my slow down is apparently everyone's overdrive. So like it made such a huge difference in how I perceive myself. Honestly, is when you take that time to slow down and think about your path and think about your trajectory, it makes you realize what you can do and what you should do. And for me, like becoming a chef is completely accidental. We had all these people over for brunch, and I was honestly just trying to get people out of my house. Like,
did word get out about
Yes.
your brunches at your house?
The word got out. So I'd invite 9-10 people to brunch. And the final one in February of 2016, There were 37 people at my door at 11 a.m. and I didn't know some of them. And the people that I didn't know, but get this, because
But you're like, come on in.
No, because like, I'm like, if these people are showing up empty handed, I'm going to tell them to go home. Because like, I don't, somebody had
Are they
told
helping?
them. No, but they brought good champagne.
Okay. Well,
and I'm like,
you can come
because I'm like, come on in. Like, you're bringing in a good bottle of champagne. Let's just get to know each other. You clearly know somebody in the circle. So let's just try not to make it weird. And I went to the bar that night. And I'm like, I don't know who these people are. They're coming in my house. I don't know what's going on. And they're like, we can't get a food truck here to save our lives. I'm like, I'm not buying a food truck to save your bar. I'm just not doing it. But to get people out of my house, it became, well, why don't I set up a tent behind a bar? Just try it once, see what happens. Sold out the first night. And I'm like, okay.
I think I read someplace that the bet that you made on yourself to succeed was $572.
$572, exactly. Yeah.
$572
Licenses,
are the best.
equipment, food.
Is that the best thing that you ever did for yourself in business?
No.
No.
Honestly, I think the best thing I did for myself was closing my restaurant.
The other twist.
The other twist. Yeah.
When the tent works.
When the tent works.
And you're like, okay, I paid off my bills for this endeavor.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, sweet, I'm done.
Yay.
And then everyone's like, because
Are you gonna do it again?
I honestly thought that I would have a handful of friends that would show up, maybe 5, 10 people. They'd pat me on the head.
The people, they're like, let's go support Sam. We feel sorry for her. Let's go support her.
Exactly. I'm like, this.
Let's go eat her
They're like,
food.
this chick is going from making $95 an hour to cooking in a tent behind a bar. Let's see what this looks like. Because like on paper, it sounds really stupid.
What bar was it? Do you remember the bar that it was
Arcadium.
behind?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was behind Arcadium, 6th and Limestone in northern Lexington. And I legitimately thought that like 10 people would come up and pat me on the head, and then we'd pack up the extra food, and I'd just dole out the leftovers to all our friends, and it'd be done. And then everyone goes, when's the next one? I'm like, the next what? Excuse me? And they're like, you're doing this again, right? I'm like, that wasn't my plan, but okay. So we did it again, and we sold out again. I looked at my husband, and he's just like, look. And he had gone through, the reason that we kind of took the plunge on the tent is because he had been sick. And so since he was in remission, he said, look, we both found out how short life is. So why don't we just take this leap, take your sabbatical from working on the web for a couple of months, see what happens.
See what happens.
And I have been holding on for dear life ever since.
Well, the success that would follow from the tent to the pop-up to the accolades, which you didn't see coming,
I still can't
taking a
quite
quick
believe it.
pause and coming right back with more from Sam Fore. I grew up in a Ford family. My dad worked at the Louisville Ford assembly plant. So growing up, it wasn't just a brand, it was a part of our life. And that's the thing about Town and Country Ford. It is woven into the fabric of not only who we are in Kentucky, but who we are across America. So wherever life's adventures may lead you, big, small, or totally unexpected, they're there. Welcome back. I'm catching up with Sam Fore. She is the kind of person that didn't just step out of the box. I find that you're kind of recreating it the more I have this conversation with you. So we were catching up about how the tent now turns into something that people are expecting you to do the pop-up, what, every week? Or
I think every week,
do a
every
storefront?
month,
Like when's the restaurant?
When's the restaurant? All these questions. And I'm like, guys, I didn't even think that far ahead. I just said, I'm going to see what happens.
this would work.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just going to see what happens. And then if it doesn't go well, I've only lost $572. Like, I'm okay with that. A lot of people go into, these industries and they lose millions of dollars. I'm like, if I lose $572, I'm fine. Absolutely fine.
Were you able to locate then pretty easily like a brick and mortar and just, did you want to find a brick and mortar?
Nope. I did not want to find a brick and mortar. I did not want to commit. I'm like, if I can figure this out of an Acura TSX right now,
Pop-up.
Why not?
Do a
The
pop-up.
overhead is low. My husband and I are the staff. We can pocket everything. And then we can kind of expand our presence and see what happens. And seeing what happened was like the second that chefs started to find out that a Sri Lankan pop-up was in Lexington, word spread like wildfire. We had people finding out about us. We started in April of 2016. By January of 2017, by January 2017, we were on all of these radars. And I was just like, The funny thing is, like, it's not even Lexington radars. Like, we were on national radars. We had writers asking me about, all of these things. And I'm like, why are you talking to me? Shouldn't you be talking to a chef? And it became, when Padma Lakshmi calls your telephone line for your store and has an assistant say that she's hungry and you don't have a storefront, you kind of start wondering what the heck is going on.
Where are you operating at the time? How are you operating at the time?
I was using catering kitchens. So I called churches, I called restaurants, I called everyone trying to find a place to prep, because there are a very certain set of rules to be able to operate a temporary food establishment. And if I am operating as an ethnic food vendor in any of these situations, I'm doing everything by the book so nobody can say that it's X, Y, or Z. And so I had to make sure that everything was prepped, cooled, and then reheated to certain temperatures and all that. And the health department came to visit me every single time, because that's part of the deal.
Right.
You don't have a restaurant. You don't have a restaurant. You're operating out of a tent. Like, we need to make sure that the public's okay. And I'm like, all right, let's go. So I would spend hours prepping. Then I'd go reheat and transport food, and then, get a different license for that. Like, it was just like hoop after hoop after hoop. People would cancel my time, and I'd have to go, I would go prep at 1:30 in the morning. I was cutting vegetables for $10 an hour just to get prep space. And like, it was not easy. And it's why I'm such a softie about these like pop-up chefs coming up. I'm like, just come in and do something. And they're like,
let me help you out.
And I'm like, if I had this, I don't know what I could have done. Like, as far as everything has gotten, if I had support, like actual infrastructural support, not the community support was there, but the infrastructural industry support was still developing. And it's not like I can walk in, like I said, like I can't now. I can walk into a hotel kitchen and be like, hey, can I borrow your space for a little bit? I've done XYZ. I know XYZ. This is great. And also I'm friends with so-and-so. I've networked now to the point to be able to do that. Then nobody cared. Like, it's the first time that I was in a proper restaurant kitchen was when I did my 610 Magnolia pop-up in October of 16. And those chefs and cooks treated me so well that it completely changed my view on doing pop-ups in restaurants, because I was scared. I cook in a tent. You want me to come cook in your restaurant? Really? Are you sure? And sure enough, it's worked out to a point that, like, I don't even know what's next, because there's so many things that can happen.
You called the establishment or the pop-up Tut Tut
Sri Lankan
Bites.
Yep.
You've got Padma calling you, asking you when she could swing by. What is she ordering? What did you make for her?
She had just filmed the Ruparina episode of Top Chef. And so I'd gotten to go that day. And so I watched the challenge, and then I went home because I knew how to pop up the next day. So when I have a pop up, my fridges are all empty because I have to go shopping, and then I have to cook the next morning for the pop up in the evening. Fridges are empty, pantries are empty. I have to go do all the shopping, and I was going to do it that evening because I was going to Top Chef that day, and I was so excited.
What a life.
Yeah, right?
What is happening?
I know. And 6:30 p.m., I get a phone call. And they're like, hi, we were wondering if you're open today. I'm like, no, we're a pop-up. We're open tomorrow. And they're like, oh, well, Padma's hungry and we're not going to be here tomorrow. And I'm like, is this who I think it is? I look at the number, and it's a New York number. I'm like, oh, this could be that Padma. I'm like, well, I can figure something out. Like, what can we do? And they're like, here, why don't we do this? Bring a plate of whatever you feel like making to Ruparina at 8 o'clock or 8:30. And I'm like, okay. So I have 2.5 hours to go to the grocery store, shop, cook, pack, deliver to Ruparina. Fine, I'm going to do it.
What did you make?
I started a pot of rice. Well, it gets weirder. I started a pot of rice, and I ran to the store and grabbed supplies for like chicken curry, chickpeas, bok choy, everything I could find. And I just started cooking. I put out sterno burners, like the little camper stoves. I put those out on my countertop, so I had like 8 burners going. And 7:30 rolls around. I get a call from Edward Lee, and I'm like, what is going on? Now, I know Edward at this point.
Edward Lee.
That Edward Lee.
That chef,
the Edward Lee.
The chef Lee.
Korean superstar now, thanks to his amazing Netflix series, has been riding the superstar life, which he's been great.
Is this your first phone call with him?
No.
Okay, you've talked
I
to him
cooked at
before.
610.
Oh, that's right.
He invited me to cook at
You were at the
610.
pop-up. You've already met him.
Edward was one of my earliest supporters. And, with his endorsement, that kind of put me into a different echelon. And I'm forever grateful for that. But he's like, hey, I've got a situation here at Rupp with Top Chef. And Padma snatches the phone out of his hand. And she goes, hi, I want to come to you. And I'm like, I'm in my house. She goes, you're in your house? I'm like, yeah, I don't have an actual kitchen restaurant. Like, I go to another place and they're doing an event right now, so I'm just cooking for you out of my house. And she goes, I can come to your house? And I'm like, I have 4 dogs. I have cats. And I'm like, you could come to my house.
Come on over.
And I'm looking out over my living room and I just see this like little furball tumbleweed going across. And I called my husband into the room and I was like, I know this sounds weird. I need you to vacuum everything twice as quickly as possible. And he goes, what did you just do? I'm like, we're getting guests. I need you to vacuum everything.
Did you tell him who?
Oh, I told him in a minute. I think he had an inkling because we tend to end up in very crazy situations. And so he goes, okay. And sure enough, like 8:45, 9 o'clock rolls around. And this beautiful woman coming straight off of the set is walking into my house. And my husband's mouth is dropped because he's like, oh. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, Padma's coming over. We're making this happen. And she walks straight into my kitchen and she's like stirring things. And I'm just looking at her. I'm like, this is not really happening. She's like, are you okay? And I'm like, do you not realize how strange this is? And so she's like, I have accosted you in your own home. And I'm like, no, you're more than welcome to. Like, you've done so much for visibility of both brown people and brown food in this country. Like, to have you in my home is a shock. But also like, yeah, I'm on that level. Okay.
Yeah.
And a couple months later, New York Post comes out and she took all of the food that she had. She took everything else to go. She grabbed a couple bites. And I think I'd made like 9 or 10 dishes at that point. We packed it all up and she took it to the other chefs that were on that season. And
oh, Sam.
like,
wow.
Like years later.
It's like your own Top Chef.
It's so weird. Yeah. Because I'm like, I'm not scared of any of these competition shows now because I can do that.
Right.
And I can do that in Lexington, Kentucky with all the specialty ingredients and all that.
At my home.
In my house.
In a tent behind a bar.
Exactly. Like the first time I've cooked at distilleries, I cooked in a tent behind a distillery. And
wow.
It means that it's possible. It means that taking the shot, it might not look like the most beautiful, storied journey working your way up through kitchens. Sometimes you sneak in the side door and you find your place.
We haven't even talked about the food yet because I think we haven't even gotten into the menu. Like, what was the first thing on the menu? Because you really have I think you've taken people off guard with being so true to your Sri Lankan heritage and the spice associated with that region, and having the gall to blend it into traditional Southern foods.
I mean, I did not go out to I don't want to make anyone's
because they don't
mad.
seem like they would ever go together.
No, but they do. And this is something that, like, being a chef in Kentucky is also kind of putting on your cultural anthropology hat. Because like we were doing a taping with PBS and they're talking about chow chow. And sure enough, I send this group down to Eastern Kentucky in Whitesburg to make chow chow, and they're using turmeric in their chow chow. Turmeric is something that's come from the spice trade in South Asia. There's these regions and these cuisines are all so linked, whether it's through story, through transport, through spice, through components, through tradition, through families making things together, whether it's all the ladies getting together to break down the cabbage for the chow chow, to all of the Sri Lankan families getting together to put rice into packets and wrap them in banana leaves so we have a familiar meal in the freezer. It's tradition. It's familial tradition. And I don't think that people expected that translated so one-to-one.
But you chose the right spice in the right dishes.
Yes.
You understood.
You need a vehicle, as the marketer mind, is that you need a familiar vehicle. You need something that people understand. I can put pork curry over rice and give that to anybody. And somebody who's never seen pork curry over rice is going to go, I don't know what that is. And when somebody's looking at a baby back rib, they know what that is.
Yeah.
They know that they're going to get a rib, that it's going to have pork in it, and that it's going to be seasoned. And so if that's enough to make somebody take that plunge on flavor, I've got the win. I've got the win. Because that bite of the pork curry marinade on my ribs will eventually lead that person to say, okay, I want to try something new. I'm going to get the pork curry bowl this time with all of the accoutrements. And now I'm eating coconut. And now I'm eating, spicy shallots. Now I'm eating kale and coconut shred. Now I'm eating yellow rice with cinnamon and cloves in it. And then you start to see people kind of get these like flavor, moments. They're like, phew. That's what I started really getting into. Is that moment where you see that you've kind of broken somebody's expectations. Yeah. And for some people, it's like that moment where they just kind of lean back and they're like, oh, I'm like, you can see them processing it in their heads. And that's what did it for me. Mm-hmm. And so that's what made it the challenge. It's like, okay, how can I bend this to make this more familiar and more approachable, but make it mine?
We love traditional Southern foods, yes, but we love it when it's done in a totally different, unexpected way.
And you have to do it right.
Yeah.
Like you can't just put a biscuit out there. It has to be a good biscuit. You can't just put fried. Southern food and the people who love Southern food have such a high standard that it is terrifying to consider yourself a Southern cook in any way, shape, or form in this region when you have a region full of church cookbooks and junior leagues and all of these things, because these are ladies that don't put their name on it unless they're proud of it, and they are very proud of it. These are the cookbooks that I would read and leaf through growing up. So-and-so's spinach ball recipes, 18 versions of hash brown casserole. And that started to kind of be like, okay, they're putting their best foot forward with what they know. This is what I know. How can I mix that in a way that tastes good and feels familiar? With the deviled egg, it's a callback to landing at my aunt's house in Sri Lanka, where she would make egg curry every single time. Get off the plane, and then you'd have this like beautiful coconut milk gravy that's spiked with garlic and lemongrass and onions and all the curry leaves. And then you bite into that egg, and then you sit there and you think about it. And I'm like, okay, in the South, deviled eggs are a fantastic vehicle. Can I turn this curry into my deviled egg into my deviled egg filling, and say, hey, can I make this my bite? And so put a little bit of the lime pickled shallots on top, and sure enough, I'm sitting back at my aunt's table.
How do you apply the same mashup to fried chicken?
Fried chicken's funny because everybody has their opinions on fried chicken. Every culture has a fried chicken. You have Korean fried chicken, you have Japanese fried chicken, you have Southern fried chicken, you have all of these spots that do deviled chicken, any kind of way that a frying and a chicken can meet exists. Chicken curry is one of my favorite comfort foods. Fried chicken, also a favorite comfort food. So I sat there and I did so many iterations of everything that I put. I eventually settled on everything that I put into a chicken curry in my buttermilk brine because I wanted those flavors to carry through. I was like, okay, this is my chance to make it mine. And this is kind of good. My chicken curry is good. So this in fried chicken, that can't be bad.
Would you say that's the number one dish that everybody raves about?
Yeah.
Fried chicken.
Yeah, fried chicken pays my bills. It's insane. To be in Kentucky and doing a fried chicken in the land of the Colonel, I think that I felt like that might have been one of my ballsiest bets on myself of all time. And people loved it. People did not know what it was, because when you can catch somebody with that unexpected, it's that light bulb moment that makes you memorable. And that fried chicken is memorable. It has gone across the country. It has had its own spice blend sold across the country. I have cooked it. I've cooked it on TV. I have cooked it. I made 5,000 servings at Pebble Beach one year. Like, there was one year that I did over 9,400 servings of fried chicken just for events. Like, people love fried chicken.
They love fried chicken.
But it's familiar. It's comforting. If it's good, if it's crispy, if it has a great amount of seasoning to it, you can't lose with fried chicken.
So what changed? You are on the cover of magazines, your recipes front and center. The biggest chefs all across the South are inviting you to come to their kitchen.
Most bizarre. I went to this thing, Brown in the South.
Yeah.
With Powerhouses. These are the people that I watched on TV. You know, these are chefs that have made such a huge impact on not just Southern food, but South Asian food. You know, you've got, now they're commanding the best restaurants in the country, and they're like, hey, why don't you come cook with us? And I'm like, excuse me? So that's when they're like, okay, I need to be able to hang. That's what changed, is that I'm like, all right, I have made it this far. Let's actually put the pedal to the metal and see what's possible. Because at that point, I was still kind of figuring it out. But when you start to get that moment of adrenaline, and there's a euphoric feeling when you're in a humming kitchen with other chefs collaborating on something.
A for real kitchen.
Yeah. Like big kid kitchen.
Many of these, when the Michelin Guide to the South came out, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think did you cook in some of those kitchens?
Yeah, many of them. Yeah, I'd actually just cooked at Elvy's. And Elvy's was named one of the best restaurants in the country. And it is a tiny kitchen, and it is wonderful. You have so many people crammed into a small space for one goal. We're not operating on hearts. We're not saving lives. We're not doing anything like that, but we're making food. We're making memories. And in a time like now, when everything feels like it's on fire, we're bringing comfort. We are bringing familiarity. We are bringing family. We are bringing warmth. And so to be able to do that in those kitchens, and, you know, Andy at the Catbird Seat came up and cooked with us in the middle of winter. And you look at those folks and you look at how hard they work and how much they impart on you when you cook with them. And it affected me, because it's not only pride, because there's a lot of pride in what we do, but then there's an award culture where everyone's like, oh, this is popular, this is this is that. Yeah. I'm like, but some of these folks, I'm sure you have this opinion about some of these folks, I have seen their blood, sweat, and tears come through, and they have honored me with the ability to be in their restaurant. What changed the biggest thing was the pandemic, is that after I'd gotten my first vaccination, my phone line was lighting up saying, hey, we need to bring people back into the restaurant. Do you think that we could do something a little bit different? And to me, I would look in and say, okay, if I do a pop-up in Lexington right now, I'm cannibalizing every restaurant here that's trying to survive.
Yeah.
So if you look between 2020 and 2022, I barely did anything in Kentucky, because I did not want to hurt the survival of restaurants that had to rely on every dollar coming in. But we went out of state, and I started reviving for everybody and trying to revitalize dining scenes with them. To be able to cook with Frank Stitt, to be able to cook with Daniel Patterson, to be able to have Nancy Silverton asking me about pop-ups randomly. I'm like, what is this? I am living somebody's dream. I'm not sure whose. And I am loving it, because I'm able to lean on all of these people as my community, just because of food.
But isn't that what brings us together?
Exactly.
When we sit and eat together, I mean, that's ancient times. You sit and you break bread, and you get to know who you are. And tell me about your culture. To start with, a dish can unlock how somebody grew up in the South. But then to talk about spice can unlock, well, this is my heritage, this is my culture, well, why, and how these work together. It just opens up a whole different level of understanding of people,
when people,
and a level of respect for what somebody does.
Right. And that's not what I expected. I again, until roughly 2023, I was running with this notion in my mind that everyone was going to pat me on the head and send me on my way. And then things kept happening. And then more things kept happening. And then happening. I'm like, I don't know what this is. And so it became, let me assert myself in my way, and let me see if I can make some sort of positive ripple to leave things better than I find them. Because when you're in 100 kitchens and change over 3.5, 4 years, you see a lot. You see a lot of the struggles that the restaurant community goes through. You see the struggles of ownership, the struggles of sourcing, the struggles of farmers. You see it all. And you think, how can I make this better? And how can I make enough of an impact that I feel good about what I'm doing? I really just wanted a career where I could look at myself in the mirror and be okay with what I saw. And I'm starting to get there.
And so what was in your gut that said it's time for Tut Tut to come to a close? It's time to go.
The restaurant.
The restaurant.
So we operated for about
feel like
2.5 years.
We need to close this chapter.
2.5 years. The first year, everyone's first year was rough. And then at a 1.5 year mark, you start to get a bump and you're like, at that 1.5 year mark is when I started to travel around the country again. And I was talking to all of these restaurateurs that I have networked with and became friends with and done events with and festivals. Everyone from Manit Chauhan, Rodney Scott, and Chris Shepard, and asking them what they thought. And they're like, well, you're in kind of a hard town for that, but you've done a lot. And I'm like, I get that. And at that time, we had shifted from fast casual to sit down because I wanted to be a grab and go. Lexington did not want that from me. And so I said, okay, we're going to adjust to what Lexington wants. People want to come in, sit down and eat. Fine, sit down and eat. We'll build a dining room. Let's go. Let's make our ends meet. Let's make the bills work. And then prices started to change. Commodities started to grow up. And when commodities go up and you're already on a razor thin margin, I'm not a nonprofit here. I can't be hemorrhaging everything. Everything's coming out. I don't have sweetheart deals. I don't have rent deals. I don't have investors. I wanted to do this my way. So in April of 25 of this year, I kind of had a moment where I was a little bit burnt out because I had been pulling both restaurant duty and travel duty and filming duty. A triple sort of threat. That's a lot. That's a lot on a person. And you're also dealing with the familial health struggles of aging parents, which nothing in this world will ever prepare you for. And so that's something that we're going through right now. And in April, I was like, I know that we're on this upswing, but I'm in California and these restaurants that are typically hard to get into are empty. I feel like that's a sign of things to come. So I started talking to chefs. I started talking to well-respected restaurateurs, people who have 5, 6, 7 doors in different states. I said, be careful. Watch your costs. Wow. I said, okay. And I said, if you feel like it's the right time to pull back, don't look at it as a failure, because opening a restaurant right now for anybody is a task. But take care of yourself. Make sure you take care of you and take care of your people. So I came back in April ready to shut down May 1st. I was ready. I went and I sat on the cliffs in Pismo Beach and I thought about it. I said, if my commodity costs are going up this much and I can't raise prices like this, if I'm having this hard of a time sourcing spices, if that's going to go up 44% was the tariff number that we first got hit with. And then everyone was pre-adjusting prices and doing this and doing that, and gouging here and there. I'm like, And then I looked in November when we had announced, like previously, I had to buy a case of jackfruit. In November of the year before, the jackfruit cost me maybe $40. That week it was $72.35. And I'm like, I have a main ingredient that has gone up close to 90% in a year. I have dropping off in dining that is nationwide. I have a very high, labor cost for a dining room that isn't full every night. Now, if we were operating like in a city like Charleston or Nashville or somewhere where dining is a more of a part of the fabric,
right?
I think it would be different. We were largely kept alive by people from out of town. And I said, this doesn't make sense. Our pop-ups are doing great. Our guest chef events are doing great. But this day-to-day stuff stinks. And it is so much to manage between scheduling and payroll and people. And I was starting to get to the point where I'm like, I can't people anymore. I can't people like I did. I'm tired. I have to take a breath. And there's this quote, I think it was from Jacques Pepin, that said, when you're cooking and things get too hot, you can turn off the stove and pull back for a second. Nothing's going to happen. So I talked to my team and my husband resisted it at first. So he talked me into a couple more months and we got that beautiful garden and gun nod. And I'm like, all right, if it's an upswing after that, we will keep going. And I just noticed that the garden and gun traffic boost lasted 2 weeks. Whereas previously restaurant boosts would last a month or two. I'm like, we can't sustain like this. Like, I don't want to have to survive the winter when everyone is staying in more, when the disposable income is gone. I can't do that. And so I said, okay. I talked to the crew. I said, my dad's sick. My mom is sick. I'm taking care of them. I had lost so much weight at that point from running around that my CDC was force feeding me whenever I came into the restaurant. And he was just like, you've been running back and forth from the hospital, from this gig, from that. You need to take a second. And it's when everyone around you says that. And a friend of mine in Detroit who'd done a fried chicken and caviar pop-up with me called me and she said, girl, when I was like you, I spent 2 weeks in the hospital. And I said, I can't.
You can't do that.
I don't have the time. No. I don't have the ability. I have too many things to take care of.
I don't have time to be
I don't have time to be in the hospital. I need to breathe. And so I said, out of everything, I do so much better out of town that my in-town restaurant is my loss leader. Mm-hmm. When you look at all your streams of revenue and you see that, you're like, okay, I have to let this go. And then things get crazy and people talk you into keeping spaces and stuff like that. But I wanted to do it on my terms. And I didn't want to do it from a place of like, oh my God, we're filing bankruptcy just like everybody else.
You didn't want to be in a place of panic.
No.
Plus, it's like you've loved the people you're working with. Yes. You don't want to, you want to give them a heads up and
a
I
warning.
Didn't
want to, I could have gone until the end of the year very easily.
Yeah.
But I didn't want them to have to find a new job in January. Yeah. And so I sat with all of them and I talked to them for like 45 minutes. And I said, what should I do? What can I do? I'm showing you these numbers. I've always been transparent. I'm like, this is what I'm looking at. This is not getting better. If my food costs are going up 90% and people aren't here, so my labor cost is high, what should I do? And they all said, Chef, we understand. And none of them left me. When you tell somebody that they're getting laid off in 30 days, no, there's no reprieve. Like, it's gone. You will not have a job here in 30 days. And they stick by you.
Yeah, because they care about it.
They care.
They know why, that it's there for a greater purpose.
They know that I want them to have a mindset of being valued, to think of service industry work as skilled work. Because what they do and what they brought to the table, what my team did for me, makes me possible. I could not do any of these things, any of the filming, any of the shows, any of the events, any of the big competitions, nothing, without that restaurant running at home. So now I know I can run a restaurant. I know that the costs are insane right now, so it's not a bad time to take a pause. And I know that there are different revenue streams and different models that are working. So I like to think of it as taking a second to breathe and pivot. And I think as entrepreneurs, we all kind of become pivot artists.
I think we get and do you feel like this? We get so caught up when we achieve success, the expectations that are placed on us of, I don't want to let people down.
Right.
I don't want to let these.
I mean, that's why we opened the restaurant.
Yeah.
Is that like,
Everybody
guess
said
that's
I'm
what
good.
we got to do it. Well, no. It was just like, okay, we need to give someone a place to come to.
Yeah.
Because like I'm doing Milk Street, I'm doing like Culinary Institute of America, I'm doing all this. And I'm like, nobody's got anywhere to go to. I guess I should do that. So
closing was the best bet that you've made on yourself in a while.
Because I feel that betting on yourself, recovering from burnout to try to come back and be the best version of yourself is one of the strongest things you can do for yourself. And that's how I'm looking at 26. Is my baker came back to me recently, and we sit and we do R&D in the kitchen every once in a while because I still have my kitchen. Mm-hmm. I'm still operating things out of there for other concepts that I'm kind of toying with. I'm doing R&D. I'm doing pickup meals. I'm doing some shipping. And she goes, this is just one of those places where it feels good to work because it doesn't feel like work. And I always know that you're going to have something up your sleeve. But this is also somewhere where they feel that as cooks, as chefs, they can develop the skills that they want to. They can hone that with the support. You know, she says, you've spoiled us. You've been so forthcoming with, I want to experiment with this. And I said, yeah, do it. And they said, why do you do that? I was like, because I did it. If I didn't experiment, I wouldn't be where I am now. If I didn't take a chance, I'm trying to give you a soft place to land. I'm trying to be a support for you so I can make this industry better, so I can make this town better, so I can make our culinary offerings better. So we can actually be something to be so super proud of, so that the moment when, you know, Kentucky is in the Michelin Guide, I can look around and say, y'all did that because you took the leap. If I can take a leap and do this much from working my tail off and trying to be kind, then what barriers are there? I don't see a wall. I see a crack in the wall that I can crawl into. My job is to hold the door open here. And so taking that bet on myself was also showing other chefs that you don't have to be with the ship until it sinks. Don't compromise yourself. Don't compromise your integrity, your feeling, your worth, your self-worth by feeling like, oh my God, there's nobody coming into this restaurant. I feel terrible about myself. Like I know it happens. It's happened to me. It happens to all of us. Those little voices and that kind of go,
Oh yeah,
that's so doubt. I said, I have to do this. It feels like the right time to do this in my gut. And it got to the point where people are like, how much can we pay you to keep it? I'm like, you can't. It's my choice. So
creatively, can you talk about where you're going next?
Creatively, I am working on a little series.
Okay.
I'm working on bringing more chefs in, and I am working on expanding our local palette to match the experiences that I've been able to have across the country. I want to bring people in a way that is familiar, that is approachable. We have people who come in for pop-ups in Lexington that have never been to Kentucky. They're like, I'm actually having a hard time leaving here because it feels like I'm a part of a family now. And I'm like, yeah, you're a Kentuckian now, sorry. Like, that's just how we are. And they come in from Oakland. They come in from New Orleans. They come in, they're like, I never expected this here. I can't wait to come back.
Isn't that a great feeling though?
Oh, yeah. Because everyone's like, why would you live there? And then they come here like, I get it.
Yeah.
It's that I get it moment. And I'm like, okay, I might be shipping nationwide here in a couple months. I might be doing, I'm doing a little bit more TV now. The doors are open. Mm-hmm. The opportunities are out there. If I were staying and looking so hard at this P&L, trying to figure out what can I cut again to make this work, when you cut everything that you can. I mean, I had my accountant saying, like, I've worked in restaurants for decades, and I have never seen anyone cut as much as you have in 1 year without people quitting or being miserable. I'm like, my staff works hard. They get rewarded. I am rewarded by their hard work. But to have to cut,
it's hard.
You can't look at that as sustainable. You need to be able to grow. And I did not see any growth in the restaurant. I just didn't. And maybe in a couple of years, it'll be different. Maybe in a couple of years, something will be birthed from all of these little sort of pivots and things that we've done. But for right now, and it's the same thing that my staff said to me. I said, Chef, you're never ever going to regret being able to spend time with people that you love while figuring out what you need.
Final question for you is our signature question.
Okay.
The Kentucky table.
Okay.
Who are you inviting to your Kentucky table? What are you eating and what are you drinking?
Ooh.
And it can be anybody. It could be people you admire that you've not met yet.
My Kentucky table, 100%. One of, actually somebody who introduced me to you, Marianne Eves, because she is a visionary. She is a force of nature. She is one of my dearest friends, but more importantly than that, you can look at somebody and you can see all the things that they are, but when they are truly a good person who actually cares and who cares about being a good friend, those people are rare.
Yeah.
I'm bringing in Patrick Callahan from My Morning Jacket, who is my secret culinary wonder. Patrick's curiosity about the culinary world combined with his acumen for travel and being in a touring band. And, I actually met him. I was their merch girl back in like the early 2000s.
Well, you did hang with rock stars.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild. And I'm like, I know this is going to sound weird, but I knew you from back then. He's like, wait a minute, you were our merch girl here? And I'm like, yeah. We became friends. But
and it comes back to Kentucky.
It comes back to Kentucky. But Patrick is fascinating because we know all of these amazing people. Somebody that I've gotten to know recently, Silas House. I love how he speaks. I love how he writes. I love how I see him kind of consume. I would see him consume the restaurant in a way that it would just make my heart happy. 100%. And
he's the kind of person he's one too that you expect him to stay in one lane and he doesn't. And he
wants to make it better.
Continually inspired by seeing him do different things. And it's all from a place of love.
He is here for Kentucky and Kentuckians. And that is it's beautiful to me to see how much impact that, you have incredible poets here. I mean, I'd put Crystal Wilkinson at that table in a heartbeat. She's one of the most fascinating women in the state. And her knowledge on both the Southern table and the histories behind it is incredible to me. So you have these writers who are incredibly talented. You have these musicians. You have these distillers that are just phenomenal people. And they have other stories. They don't stick to one lane at all.
No.
I can't stick to one lane. I got to do it all. I mean, why not? Why not me? That's kind of how I started looking at it. And I said, okay. As I figure out this pivot back in April, I'm sitting in I basically did a road trip down the California coast. And I sat in Los Angeles. I said, okay, how do I figure this out? I have to be me. And I have to be around people who want me to be me. Yep. And that is how I can be the best I can be.
Sam, thank you so much for taking the time.
It has been
opening
a pleasure.
up your heart and just sharing.
Absolutely.
I think people hear the pivots. They hear the belief you had in yourself and the scary moves you made a difference.
Sometimes a step back or a step sideways can be part of the journey. Yeah. You have to trust your gut and you have to trust in who you are. And that speaks louder than anything. I can tell anybody that, X, Y, and Z is a thing. But when I put my story on the plate, they can't question it.
Yes. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for watching the podcast. If you felt inspired, please leave a comment, send this over to a friend, and don't forget to subscribe and get the word out. If you're following over on Instagram, be sure to follow the Best Bet Pod for all the behind the scenes action. And you can catch us on all the other streaming platforms from Spotify. And if you're on, please leave a star review because that's how I can get the word out about the podcast. So until then, I'll see you right back here next week.